We're sneaking through the facility, fighting organisms, and betraying our companions. That's right, it's Nemesis Lockdown from Awaken Realms. In this competitive, although sometimes cooperative, cosmic caper of carnage, 1 to 5 players navigate a Martian facility infested with hostile organisms. If a player can fulfill an objective on their objective card and survive their foray through the facility, they win the game. If you already have a copy of Nemesis, you can incorporate these components via special rules. Or if this is your first copy of a Nemesis game, it can be played as a standalone experience. Setup begins with the game board placed center. Lockdown features 2 board sides. We'll start with the basic side for our first game, noted with the red arrow on the top left. Then place the special tiles as noted on page 7 of the rulebook: the isolation room, repository, backup power supply, elevator, main gate, and rover. Next, shuffle the room 2 tiles face down and randomly deal 1 tile onto each of the room 2 slots on the board. Once completed, set the remaining tiles back in the game box without looking at them. Repeat this process for the room 1 tiles. Shuffle the underground exploration tokens and deal 1 face down on each unrevealed room tile. Shuffle the power tokens and randomly deal 3 to the section slot and 1 on the elevator token. If the token has a 1 or 2, set it blue, power side up. Otherwise, set it on the red, unpowered side. Shuffle the CSS tokens and deal 1 face down onto each slot of the time track. Next, place the Night Stalker's laboratory board nearby and place the 5 egg tokens in the nest slot. Shuffle the Night Stalker weakness cards and deal 3 face down. In Nemesis Lockdown, the first weakness card is revealed but not accessible yet. Take the intruder bag and add the following starting tokens: 1 blank, 4 larva, 1 creeper, 1 queen, and 3 adults, plus 1 adult per player in the game. Set the remaining intruder tokens near the board. Separately shuffle and place the card decks near the board as well. The 3 item card decks and the crafted item deck, which can be placed unshuffled. Night Stalker events, Night Stalker attacks, contamination, serious wound decks, and the computer action deck, which goes on the board. Reveal the top card, and if it's a lockdown card, then reveal the next card instead, and shuffle the lockdown card back into the deck. Set all the game tokens and dice nearby. Place the time token on its red inactive side up on the 15th space of the time track. Now it's time to set up our crew. Take the help cards, equal to the player count, and deal 1 to each player at random. Help cards have a number on them, which is that player's number for setup. The player takes the inventory card holder of their number, as well as a contingency and Night Stalker reference card. Take the 2 objective decks, corporate and personal. Remove any cards that exceed your player count, then separately shuffle them, dealing 1 card from each deck to each player, who keep them hidden at all times. Shuffle the contingency tokens and deal 1 to each player face down. There's a slight variation for this in a 2-player game. You're going to want to see page 8 of the rules for that reference. Set the remaining contingency tokens in a neutral pool next to the alert room. Place 1 contingency token face down on the active contingency slot. This is the active contingency, and its contents will remain secret until the end of the game. Next, shuffle the character draft cards. Deal 2 random draft cards to player 1. They choose 1 to keep and shuffle the other back into the deck. Repeat this process for all players. Once selected, a player takes their character's board, knowledge token, action card deck, starting item or quest item cards if any, and their miniature, placing it in their starting room. Nemesis survivors start in the isolation room, and facility workers begin in the repository room. If a player has an item, they may need ammo markers for its ammo capacity, and if they have a quest item, start it on its horizontal side up. It's not active quite yet. Players take the knowledge token and set it on the 3 space of the knowledge track on the laboratory board, unless they're a facility worker, in which case they place it on the 1 space. Give the first player token to player 1 and we're ready to begin the game. Gameplay occurs in rounds, each divided into 2 phases, player phase and event phase. First up, in the player phase, all players draw up to a hand limit of 5 cards. If a player's deck is empty, they shuffle their discard into a new action deck and continue drawing. Next, the first player token is passed to the next player in clockwise order. Then, beginning with the new first player and proceeding clockwise, players take turns. Each turn, a player takes 2 actions. They may also perform 1 action and pass, or just pass on their turn. However, once a player has passed, they're out of the turn sequence for the phase. Turns continue until all players have passed. Let's take a look at the actions. Actions have a cost, either 0, 1, or 2. Which indicates the number of action cards a player must discard from their hand to activate that action. Actions include movement, which allows a character to move to an adjacent room if connected by a corridor. Characters cannot stop in corridors and resolve actions only in rooms. If the new room has a face-down room tile, flip it and resolve the exploration token on the tile. Exploration tokens have a number of items and an effect symbol. Rotate the room so the item counter symbol on the board matches the number on the tile, which is the amount of items that can be found in this room. The effect symbols include silence and danger, which affect noise rolls and other hazards. See page 17 of the rules for all those specifics. Noise rolls occur if a player enters a room without another character or an intruder. The active player rolls a noise die and applies the result. If it's a number, place a noise marker on the corridor connected to that room, matching that number. If a noise marker is already in that corridor, resolve an encounter. More on those in a sec. If it's a silence symbol, nothing happens, lucky you. If it's a danger result, move any intruders in neighboring rooms with open corridors into the current room. If no intruders exist in neighboring rooms, place noise tokens on all empty corridors connected to the room. Specifics exist for certain corridors and intruder movements. See page 17 and 18 in the rules. Other actions include careful movement, which is the same as movement, but instead of a noise roll, the player can set a noise marker in a chosen corridor connected to the newly entered room. Pick up heavy object, which allows the character to take a heavy object from their current room. Trade, which allows them to trade items and objects with a mutually consenting player in the same room. Craft item, which allows the player to discard 2 item cards with the appropriate blue component symbols to gain a crafted item card with those symbols. Shoot and melee attacks are combat actions, which we'll discuss in just a bit. There's also action card actions, item card actions, and room tile actions, all of which have a cost and description on their asset. Action card actions are unique to a character's action card deck, and just like other cards in your deck, you're going to discard its cost along with the card. Additionally, the computer action revealed on the top of the deck can be used by a character in that section with power in a room with a computer. Once used, that card is placed on the bottom of the deck and a new card is revealed. When lockdown cards appear, resolve them immediately. Before we move to the event phase, let's talk about encounters and combat. An encounter is any instance of an intruder appearing in a room where a character is present. The first encounter of each game of Nemesis Lockdown is an important milestone. At that time, all players choose one of their objectives to keep and discard the other from the game face down. They must now complete that objective and survive the facility to win the game. When resolving an encounter, discard all noise tokens in the connected corridors of the room and draw an intruder token from the intruder bag. Intruder tokens have 2 numbers, each applicable if the room is either powered or unpowered. Some sections of the facility start powered, but will start to fail as the game progresses. See page 24 of the rules for power details. Place an intruder mini in the room, matching the intruder symbol. Larva, creeper, adult, breeder, or queen. Then compare the intruder's token number to the number of cards in the player's hand. If the intruder's number is higher, a surprise attack occurs. Characters may attack an intruder or escape during their action turns, while intruders attack characters during the event phase. Whether they're shooting with a weapon or making a melee attack, both combat options resolve in similar ways. The player chooses an intruder target they want to attack. They either take one contamination card to their discard if they're melee attacking, or they discard one ammunition if shooting. They then roll the combat die and apply the result. Either miss, a single injury based on the intruder type, or a number of injuries regardless of type. When intruders suffer injuries, place injury tokens on their base. Larvae and eggs die after one injury, but stronger types require drawing from the intruder's attack deck, comparing the blood symbol on the upper left to the number of injury markers on the base. If the number equals or exceeds the injury markers, it's killed. More rules for combat, including escapes, retreats, and the advantage die, can be found on pages 20 and 21. Next, in the event phase, players check to see if a CSS token is under the time token to see which pods are launched this turn. More details for that found on page 11. Then move the time token on the time track by one slot and check the auto destruction and power thresholds. Then, remove all noise tokens in corridors not connected to rooms with characters in sections with power. Intruders then attack characters in their same room. When attacking, intruders target the character in their room with the least amount of cards in hand. They then draw and resolve an intruder attack card. These generally inflict wounds, which are tracked on a character's board. First as light wounds on the wound track, but as they increase, eventually to serious wounds, they take a serious wound card and gain its detrimental effect. If any character already has 3 serious wounds and suffers any other additional wound, even a light wound, they dead. After the attack is resolved, intruders suffer environmental effect damage such as fire. Finally, players draw and resolve event cards. These cards have an intruder type, the numbered direction they move this step, traveling along corridors, and an effect. Then one intruder token is drawn from the intruder bag and the corresponding effect is resolved. See page 13 for specifics. And then we're at the end of a round. Rounds will continue, with players sneaking through the facility, fighting those organisms, trading with, and maybe even betraying their companions. The game ends once certain conditions occur. The time token reaches the final slot of the time track, then all players in the facility who are not in the isolation room die. Maybe the time token passed the auto-destruction token, or 13 fire markers, or 11 malfunction markers are on the board. Then the facility explodes and all the characters in the facility die, as do the intruders. And finally, if the last living character either dies, uses the isolation room, flees to the bunker, or uses a CSS pod, the game ends. And if someone survived, play proceeds to the victory check. During a victory check, follow the steps on page 12 of the rules to ensure a surviving player passed the contingency, isn't infected, and they've completed their objective. If a player passed all 3, they win the game. And that's the complex basics of Nemesis Lockdown. Many more rules, including token and marker specifics, contamination cards, knowledge and weakness effects, and corridor and room details can be found in the rulebook. Additional modes, along with stretch goal bonuses, are available in the game too, including solo mode, co-op mode, an advanced side to the board, and rules for incorporating components from the original Nemesis game. I'm Becca Scott, this is Good Time Society, and my secret objective is to have an awesome day, which I already completed. If you want to have an awesome day too, give us a like and subscribe to the channel, and I promise it will be awesome. Then come on back for more great games and good times. We'll see you later.